Truth seekers. All right. It is that time for the show tonight, and we got a great show for you. It is Friday, so you know how we rolled on Friday. But either way, you could have been any other place tonight, but you chose to be right here, right now. And with that being said, I'm going to serve you. We're going to talk about reptilians, the myth, and why some of these things could be real, and then the other things could be, well, just out there. But we'll go through some stuff about the Vatican, and then we'll have some conversations to tie all of this in. So anyway, I hope you had a great week and you're ready for the weekend. And I'm going to take you into the weekend, but we won't be here all night. But in the meantime, so all I can say is this. When we talk about that reptilian agenda, or we talk about reptilian, it is one of the most mythical things out there that people do say, and we need to look at it off the board from there. Okay, so either way, on live right now. Let me let my daughter know. All right, let's do it. So let me stop the music so we can get right into our conversation, because that is how we roll. So anyway, reptilians. So let's try to talk about what we know when it comes down to the reptilian. And first of all, I'll put it in the chat. If you've been around here a lot, if you've been here watching the show for quite some time, then you know how we get down when it comes to that. But I want to know, when was the first time you heard anything about reptilians, period? And what was your first thought about it? If you don't mind, write in the chat. I'll put it up on the screen. We'll add it to our conversation tonight, because it's, this conversation's been around for quite some time, especially if you watch some of the David Icke's or some of the other stories, then you will know a little bit about the reptilians. Now, still, when you start thinking about it being a mythical conversation, I'm starting to, as I look around, do more research. It's like the signs are there. The signs have been around that there is some type of snake, biblical worship or some type of something in the background that represents that reptilian. I know sometimes it gets pretty difficult. I owned a pet shop, and so I had lizards and snakes and, iguanas and you name it. And it just, it's just hard to imagine that they're walking around bipedal and doing some of the things that they do. Of course, if you've been around this UFO stuff, we will talk about the felines and so many species, the mantis, which I can't even imagine how the mantis will control or do anything with those type of arms. But the stories exist. And then we go all the way down to the Palladians and the felines and the blue avians and all. It's just so the list goes on. In fact, if you want to grab the book by Mark Capizio, whatever his name is, he says there's 80 different species according to his writings in his book. So, you might want to get a copy of it. You can find it on Amazon and definitely check it out. It's a very interesting read. But then who knows? Who could verify so many different species of extraterrestrials, and where they come from, where they've been, and where are they now would always probably be the question that most people will have. And of course, I'm one of them too. And not that I'm a skeptic, it's just that I like to do an investigation on questions and try to understand what is happening out there when it comes down to it. So I'll look into the link here, and some of you just joined us today. And so again, thank you for all. I'll just give a shout out real quick. Peace to Ella is in the house. Purple Girl is in the house. Emperor was the first person here, and Diana, which is our godmother of the channel, is in the house as a moderator as always. Just Michael, Diane is in the house. RN Diva is in the house. Mr. Rabbit, and we'll just keep going all the way down. Cairo, and if I missed you, Clark, Nina's, and Galactic. Anyone else? We'll get to it a little later. All right. So once again, Ella said I had a difficulty with the concept. It's not difficult now. A lot of people probably would have. Ella, a lot of people probably would have and still do, because of the phantom part of, what do you mean a reptilian? Because when you think of a reptilian, of course, most of us is going to think about some type of species or animal that's kind of walking around here on 4 or 5 legs or slithering or whatever you want to call it. And so you can't equate that to intelligence or anything else. Now, of course, now we have gone further down the rabbit hole, and we know that we got deities, we have all kinds of things that are out there. So therefore, it is the unseen that we really at some point want to focus on or try to focus on, because we can't see it. And so therefore, it's like one of those things. And I've always tell people, we can't see air, but we believe it exists and we know it works because we're breathing it, right? So therefore, there's a lot of things that we can't see that's actually out there. Polio says, I read snakes are meant to represent wisdom. So that they say. And then you got to go into who has written those texts, right? When you go down to it. But I'm with you, as I go further down this format of knowledge, then you start seeing that, once again, I've said it before, that there's things that we're being told to look in a different direction because it's not good for us, while everyone else is tapped into it in a whole nother direction. So that let you know what is really happening, that there's a cover up, or there is some truth, or maybe there's a reason for the occult knowledge. That's where we go to down the fence. So and those are things that we think about, right? And so if we do a pathway, we go back into the masses, which is the people, and then you go into the stories, then you go into the control systems and mechanisms that they have, and then if we looking at that, all of this stuff is to create anxiety and all this, and then of course people are having anxiety, people are things are happening that are creating all of this negative energy. Now, at some point, you go, well, why we want to do that, until you go all the way up, not only to the Illuminati pipeline, and then you go into the bloodlines, and then you go all the way into the fact that there is a part of some type of reptilian race that is feeding, along with others, that feeds off the negative energy. Now, again, we got to think about that. What's so good about negative energy? What's so good about the negative energy? That I'll say it again and again. What's so good about negative energy? And we could ask people around us, because there's people who are just plain negative and they appear to be just as happy on certain days or whatever. And maybe that negative energy works for them. And then for those of us who rather have white, positive energy, and so therefore now we're looking at the polarity of the yin and yang between energy. Now we know energy and is probably similar to currency, that it never dissipates. It just kind of moves and goes and comes and moves around. I would assume, unless they're feeding off of it, then it is being consumed. And so those are things that we want to kind of get into the concept of idea. But tonight, again, I wanted to just take you on a journey when it comes down to the reptilian myth. And we think it's a secret. See, I used to think that some of this stuff may be a secret and maybe they don't want us to know. But when you start looking at things, that a picture I'm going to show you in just a moment, which is, known to the world, then they're not trying to keep it a secret. And I would assume that there's no deity out there, gods, who wants to be a secret. They want everybody to know, I am the God. I am who you are. I am, and I'm sure the gods got egos, right? And so at this point, then the myth of trying to keep it a secret. Now, we've all grew up in a Christian household, well, not we all, but I did, that the greatest secret or the greatest thing the devil did was to convince people he didn't exist. I don't think that was the method. I don't think that was the thing. And now when we watch all of these celebrities and we watch the satanic worshiping and all of this, they're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to hide these things. But now when we come back to the aliens, the alien agendas, or you got good ones, you got bad ones. Again, all roads lead back to those reptilians, though. If you start looking into all the books, conversations, there's been stories out there where people have talked about it. Bill Cooper, of course, you know, David Icke has written many books regarding this. There are several books on Amazon about the reptilian. Now, when I started looking for more proof of reptilians, you know, of course, outside of stories, outside of maybe some posts that you might find on TikToks, some posts you might find on Instagram, or somebody maybe look like they're shape-shifting, or maybe they're having a malfunction within the hardware of shape-shifting, then that's probably about the best you get in the world. But then all of a sudden, if you turn into the religious aspects, it becomes a whole nother ballgame. It becomes something that, you know, you'd be like, wait a minute, why is it so magnified within religious, but it's not anything from there? So let me look at a chat here. Galactus, hey, Roderick, so it's like the same thing like matter and antimatter. Good feelings being fed on by the good beings, and the negative thoughts and feelings are being fed on by the darker being thoughts. Is that the question? Probably so. Once again, you're talking, you know, yin and yang. You're talking a balance of life. You know, I think the whole world needs to be, it's balance. That's one of the natural laws. So we can kind of look at that ourselves and just don't know that it's one way. But at the end of the day, you know, when we start looking at the structures of our life, for example, you know, I'll put up kind of a structure. This is just kind of an image, but if you start looking at the structures from the powerful families, the financial control systems, then the world resource control, then the population control through religion, government, education, media, and then the population resource labor units, which are what they call debt slaves. But if you go all the way up, which I don't have that part clipped off, but you're talking about some type of deities and energies. Now you got to kind of correlate this, right? Because I'm like, man, why do we correlate between the banking with the deities? However, if you start thinking about servitude, and you start thinking about you know, things like that, then it begins to make a little more sense when it comes down to that, because the human forms of people lives off a certain way, and probably the reward to the humans to capsulate or capture and control other humans may be the fact that you do this, you're going to live like this. And so therefore it makes sense that would be the structure, a control structure. And so therefore the system has to be put in place so that the whatever, the controllers or the puppet masters, or, you know, will be able to get their wish in honor. Because again, being human, we probably see things a certain way. These deities, the reptilians, see things totally different. And if you do a lot of stories, when it comes down to these reptilians, they're like, they don't have no emotions. They don't have no thoughts and stuff like we have. They just don't go into that. But however, when you start looking again deep into the scenario, you begin to see a weird place of things. So for example, this particular picture is called the Vatican Snake Hall. Now, you know, you probably seen this, but why on earth, on this earth, would a organization such as the Vatican, which will be, as we would know, a religious, you know, organization, will build such a building with so much symbolism of representation if it wasn't something there? So once again, because it is one of the most known places in the world, that goes back to what I was just saying. Maybe the deities or the reptilians or whoever's behind them saying, don't hide us. You build me a monument. You build something in plain sight to represent who I am. Now, I don't know if it was their goal or trick to say, let's trick the world from the knowledge that you can gain from this. But we're going to do this. Now, of course, we know so much things that happens over there with some of these things in the Vatican, some of the stuff that they have been known for, you know, even the scandalous things that you hear. Then, you know, why would that be such a situation? But again, it's there. And as we want to look deeper, then there you go. I mean, they have a religious institution with uh, snake representation. Now, I encourage each and every one of you to start doing some research. And what you're going to start finding is what I did. You're going to find that it's not about the reptilian stories out there that we're hearing. It's not about, again, like I was just mentioning, somebody shape shifting. It all points back to religious doctrines. It all points back then to hitting truth. It all points back to that part, right? And that makes you really kind of wonder that we're focusing over here thinking about these reptilians and people on Earth. Now, how do we get to that point? I'm glad you asked, because if you get to that point, that goes back to the religious doctrine, and then you go back to the giants and everything else. And you know, it just all goes back. So if you go back to the deities, the Anunnaki, the Anu, or whatever you want to call them, now it all points back to at one point that they could have been a black skinned race. Oh, now they could be a reptilian race. It's just so many different things that are pointing back. Or could they have been both? Maybe they were some black reptilians, right? Wow, would that be a question to ponder on for quite some time? But at the same time, the stories all leads down the road that there's some insidious behind what's happening. There's things that are going on. And I think it's time, and there's always been time, that we should look into this. You should go a little deeper. We should go past the mask of religion and go look into ancient conversations. Because when you go to all historic stuff, ancient, from the Mayans to the Indians to the Africans to whoever, it all ties back to they all have some type of snake worshiping deities within their history. Then you come back to the Dogon. Okay, then you may get some fish stuff. So it's almost like we've been visited, as we would know, like by tons of people. So by being visited by tons of people, then of course, throughout history, the images and deities change. But back to the beginning of time, it goes all the way back to at some point. So all right, let's play that we are some reptilians. We are traveling through the atmosphere of the galaxy. We're just cruising along and we see this blue blackwater planet and we pull up in there and we go, whoa. And because we came out the sky and because we were using machine, those dummies down there start worshiping us and whoa, they must be gods because they came from a place that we look up to at night and daytime and we worship, because we were sun worshiping, moon worshiping, lunar worshiping, and they must be gods. So I would guarantee you, if I stumble in your neighborhood, because I'm not talking about being out of space, and everybody start bowing down, Roderick must be a god, I'm going to milk that. I'm going to milk it all the way, okay? And whatever comes with that, until they start trying to present a coup or something, then we got a different story. But if I walk into your neighborhood and everybody's like, oh, he's King, Roderick is here, and look at it, because I came in on a drone or something, and all of a sudden, we're gonna I'm gonna milk it. Who wouldn't do it? I don't think any one of y'all sitting out here would milk it. Who would stand there? Because you got two choices. You're gonna stand there and say, "Nah, I'm not no god," and then they pull out their spears and chop you up, or they bow down and you go, well, I'll do that. Now, of course, I don't care what you look like. So if you got scales and all that, and you're looking out there and seeing some of these beautiful women, because some of you are, all of you, or some beautiful ladies, and you get a choice to say, I can get that one, and that one. Now, who wouldn't go all in on it, right? So I'm saying we got, that's just common sense approach. And when you look back in history and all of the Mayan stuff where these flames and okay, now it's roaring fire, we were just not understanding what was happening. And so again, you can go into some primitive place and therefore people are going to worship or see things a little different, which comes back to the argument in the Bible or biblical or reptilian stuff that there's don't put any gods before me, because it is written. The word is written. Don't you put no gods with an S. So obviously you knew he had some cousins, brethrens, or homies that came too that we're gonna think they're gods too. So now there's a competition among the gods to rule. And all of a sudden, we understand the battles in the battlefront, and now we start getting reptilian stories. Were they winning? Did they assume the rank and file? All right, so we would think some type of advancement. So this is why we think they have the ability to shapeshift or all of these other things. And then it all boils back down to underground cities. Underground cities that we begin to say, okay, wait a minute, they've been here all the time, and that's another part there. Alex said Roderick wants that one, and that one. I'm just telling you. Okay, are y'all saying I'm the only one? Who else would be with me? If you walked into a city, and I'm sure you'll do the same thing, Alex. Well, you may be married, you can't say nothing right there, wife or something or whatever, But if you walked into a city and everybody started bowing, and then people over there start going, we need to kill it, or we need to get rid of this thing. You're going to take the side of the ones that's bowing, and then you're going to tell them to put those people in check. And that was the true history. That it was just it. No matter what part of history, when things came from foreign places, they either looked at them one place or another. So, all right, that's all I'm saying. Roderick wants a harem. No, I don't. I just said that I will take the benefit of choice when it comes down to all that. So anyway, let me go back. So we think about now the story's shifted, that they're already here. Okay, so we're talking about reptilians, and we'll get back into the connection on the spiritual side or the religious side. But they're already here. They're underground, and you keep getting stories of underground cities and maybe some type of artificial sun. Now, if the sun could be manipulated and someone would stay under the ground, why would they do such a thing? We've heard stories of oceans and things that are double oceans, and within the ocean, another ocean. We've seen movies that depict there's life down there, and they found a way to see in the darkness of dark. I was just watching something the other day. A girl was talking about dolphins and how, of course, there's rules and laws that you cannot talk to a dolphin, right? And the fact is, because dolphins knows the truth. Now, if you ever looked at the sigil that I made for protection, it is two fish in the water. Now, although I'm a Pisces, and most people would confuse that with that, but it's hidden. I did it on purpose. So people walk up, you're a Pisces. Yeah, I am. So I'm playing the same role. Okay, I'm going to create a secret look. But fish is the only species that had access to the hidden world, which was underwater, where human and mankind could not go, especially in the past, without some type of apparatus. And so think about it. This is probably where the most depth of secrets could have been hidden, underground and underwater. So the stories of dolphins and now hanging around, and they know the secrets, and they know how supposedly to send telepathic things to us. And that's why you see it in Avatar. The whales and all, they all could talk because they had some of the ability from the water to sea to man. All right, just look that up. That's just something you would have to go into and see about all that. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's get back. I got another little photograph. So the question would be, why would such a place exist right here? This is from the stage view, from an audience view. Now, do you not think the two pillars look like fangs? The two eyes look like eyes. So you're not thinking that when somebody is delivering the message to you of your life, the world of spirituality, they're giving you some scriptures and they're telling you to repent or whatever. And at the same time, your subconscious is looking into these big, huge, beautiful color eyes and a big old teeth. And then the guy who is in charge is standing in the serpent's mouth. What does that mean? Right? What does that mean? Is they're not telling us that there's some type of reptilian something? Why would they go through that? Why would they spend billions or millions of dollars trying to create the most sacred place on the planet, but has the representation and symbolism that go far beyond this word and books that we have? Why would they do it? That's the question. We know how they're doing it because they're sitting there. Now, if you think that's strange, look at this building from up above in the middle of nowhere. It looks just like a snake head. We know how a snake head looks with the little head goes down. And so you think the architects or the people who built and designed that did not have some humor? If that we want to use humor, they're doing that. So again, this is one of those things that it is Vatican Snake Hall. And they call it that. Now, why do I say that maybe there's some real reason behind these reptilian stories? Because maybe there's some truth. And don't forget, there could be two things true at the same time. But maybe there's some truth behind this. And for us to be looking over here saying, okay, Roderick, show me a reptilian. Now, if they got advanced technology or they have interbred with humans, then possibly because humans was probably more humans on the planet, so therefore they couldn't walk among us if they looked a certain way, then let's commingle with them. Let's create in a race with that. And then this is why it goes all the way back to the Blue Bloods, if you ever heard that, which comes from the Illuminati, and then the fight and war between them, that they all want to have the most high percentage of whatever the original bloodline is, or the bloodlines of, I can't say the original bloodlines, but the bloodlines of whoever's in control. And so the plot thickens. So how do we equate that with everyday life? How do you equate that with all this anxieties or company? So I think we have to begin to separate those things. If you hear me out, it's time for us to separate the agenda of what you see over here in the real world and the agenda, what happens behind the real world, if y'all feel me. Because we are looking over here every day. We are concerned with prices of eggs. We are concerned with, all of a sudden, whatever's happening within the confines of the government. And if you go start looking deeper into the government, and we had a conversation so deep in our private area last night and educating people on the corporation and the other corporation of who we are and who really and who you are and what happened at birth and what happened and how you were sold. Yeah, every last one of us was sold by our parents and all these different things. And it's just true because the system is there and the documentation beats conversation. So why would they do that? Well, okay, that's somebody says we're going to build a system and this system is going to keep control. Now, it is very important to understand when you got 5 billion people or 7, or the number could be whatever, so y'all can correct me. But I'm saying when you have more people than you better decide and create something that will make you godlike and make you protected from the stories and the myth and everything else. However, let me pause right there. Then you have the honest truth over here that is driving the true narratives when we do this. So where I'm beginning to tell y'all is that it is time for you to begin to look and think differently when it comes to this. And I need y'all to understand where I'm about to go with this. We got to stop focusing on how they are doing these things. I've always told you, nothing is more important than why. Why is the true steps to you getting a solution to anything that you may wonder on. And it is the word why. Now you go into the question mark, and I'm just going to give you a quick little symbolism here. The question mark was designed by our ancestors with the bendy dot, right? You got the bendy, which people put here or whatever, or you want to say your pineal gland, whatever you want to call it. But the question mark has a pathway. And it had a pathway to the center of you to you get the answers. And it was designed in the past, in ancient civilizations, for us to understand that the answer is within you. You don't have to go outward looking for the answer. Then all of a sudden, the Rockefeller educational system hit. They turned around and said, because you remember, these all are ancient words. We talked about this within our inner circle last night, that there was three things that happened when the universe was created. It was created through words, letters, and numbers. So when they found out that they're going to use this system, they decided to say, okay, we're going to change the question mark outward, not inward. Now you must ask questions, so to speak, right? And you should, but you got your intuition, you got all of that stuff. But we can control the narrative by getting you, and we already know how that works. All of us who have had children who were at the purest state, who were at the honest state, who wasn't corrupted at a young age, will ask you why for everything. Why? Because they're learning until the mind control system kicks in, and I'm gonna get back on track, is the mind control system that was put in place by them had us to tell our children for the next generation, stop asking why, do what you told. We programming. We're passing the thing on. And you're telling kids, because I said so, and because I said so, then will become authority. And authority would be anyone who is placed in authority, or we tell them that's authority. When you go to school, listen to your teachers. We don't even qualify the teachers who are handling our kids. That's just a rant. So back to the reptilian stuff. What I'm saying is that we should look deeper into those things and understand the question why. Why is there so much symbolism and representation of the serpent, the reptilian, everywhere? Okay, everywhere. Now, for all of you, if you really want some true answers, some really true answers, if you've heard of the Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa, if y'all heard him, and if some of you have not seen his 6-hour interview that he has with David Icke, and he goes into some deep stuff. He talks about how, we began to procreate, how there was a lot of jealousy, that the women got jealous because the men had something swinging in between and they didn't have that, and everybody was jealous of this person, and they went into these different areas of life. It was a phenomenal story, and he goes into the history that everybody knows, which most people went back to Africa to get the information. If you haven't seen it, it is 6 hours. I don't know how many of you seen that. And if you have not heard it, but there's something you can get some information from that. Now, I will say this. I took the liberty today. That thing is 6 hours long. It is in the Patreon today. So any of you all that have access to the all access pass, you spend the weekend watching this, and then when you come back and when we do our next reptilian stuff, I think we're going to have a whole different conversation. 6 hours uncensored and blah, blah, blah. Now, and I'm going to tell you how powerful this thing is. I was trying to convert the video to an MP4 so I can do some editing to it. So I was going to load it up into the YouTube system so that then I can download it back. It wasn't going to get published. Before that thing finished processing, I got a note from them, and they were not playing with me. And right here, it says, YouTube removed that content. Looks like you did not follow, blah, 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 in having certain topics. Boom. They didn't even let it even go anywhere. And I was just going, you supposedly wait till you publish it or about to, they didn't even let it finish processing. And all I wanted to do was unload it and put it into our other area because I needed to condense the file, right? It's stuff there. And when you get that type of censorship, and we already know ship in the words of ship, we talked about that last night in our uncensored area, and then I'll put the replay of that in there because we went through some great stuff. So where I'm going with this is there is some information out there that we need to then pay close attention to that, again, leads back to some truth there. And so that is something that you want to pay attention. Now, let's say we talk about the Illuminati. This is the Vatican. All right. So you got Anunnaki symbols. Go back to all of your Anunnaki symbols on the left, but yet the same symbolism is at the Vatican. What is that telling us something? We got reptilian symbolism at the Vatican. We got Anunnaki symbolism at the Vatican. Let's put two to two together real quickly. I'll take this down and I'll put it back up. But for contextual purposes, you have reptilian symbolism, and then you have Anunnaki symbolism. You go back into some of the books, it's going to talk about the Anunnaki, the unknown. Then it talks about the atoms of the world. Then it talks about having scaly skin. Some of this stuff is starting to feel a different puzzle, is all I'm trying to say. I don't know about you. I don't know what you think about it, but I'm telling you what I'm starting to gather and from some of the information. Now, I've always been a certified UFO investigator, if y'all didn't know, being on TV. You know, I've been in several different TV shows. You can find me on Forbidden Knowledge, which is their Black Knight satellite. You can go to Discovery Plus. I'm in a movie there called Alien Endgame, one of 3 hosts in that show. Go to Fox Tubi. I'm in a Roswell 75 anniversary show. You can go there. You can go to Amazon. You can go to HBO. You'll see me in Bigfoot 1, I Want to Believe, and Bigfoot, I Want to Believe 2. And then there's another one I'm in. I got to figure that name out real quick. And then there's 2 more. Then you can go back, look in the archives of History Channel, Ancient Alien, quick feature in that particular show. So through all of that, I want you to know that I've had made some hellacious contacts in my phone. People that a lot of you just may see on TV, government officials that they're all in my phone. So I've had conversations with these people. So I don't have to make this stuff up to you. And you can go and watch a lot of other people's shows, and they're not that close to this. I mean, they're there, they're going to say what they're saying, but I got the pedigree behind it, and I rarely put that out there. I rarely brag on it or want to anybody, because so what? But I'm starting to figure out something, though. There are some people out there that's lying. There are some people out there telling you some untruth. There are some people leading people in a different path that you have to be careful with. And I'm saying to you as an audience that it is bigger and more greater, although it's my DNA, I'm going to use the word DNA of subject matter, than something flying around that we don't know what it is. I'm just telling you right there, please graduate from the terminology of just UFOs, UAPs. That is a phenomenon. Oh, yes, it is. But boy, is it deeper and bigger and greater and sinister. And there's a whole lot of stuff behind that is way bigger than that. And I do believe now that the powers that be, especially the governmental people, don't mind us chasing objects in the sky. I now get this now. They don't mind us chasing objects in the sky, because we're not going to look and see what's on the ground. We're not going to look and see what's walking among us. And we're not going to go into the history books. When you got pyramids, if everybody travel over there, then they're going to know that something built something that we can't do today. But how much distraction in this world that there are people walking around who can care less about a structure that's been here millions of years with technology in ways that we can't even do today. You can go over to some of these other countries and you will see artifacts or architects that depict the past so rawly that we're not going to pay attention. But then there's billions and billions of people who are going to go through their daily lives, who's going to say, I got to make sure I pay my bills tomorrow. I got to do this. So I think the grand scheme of it all is distraction. It is all of that. And begin to ask the question, why do they want to keep us distracted all the time? Now we will get somewhere. Why? And if you ever watch any crime show, if you ever went to a crime scene, and after the crime has happened, they tape it off. They all know what happened. They know what happened because they see the evidence there. They see the whatever. They all know what happened. But what do they spend much time for and to have to take to court to convict you? They need to know why. Because why is the true answer to it all, and it will lead you to a whole different place. So I'm saying it is time to start going a little deeper to why all of these ancient civilizations all have some type of reptilian depiction, architect, symbolism, worshiping in their whole structures. And then when we go to the Illuminati and the people that are in control, so listen to me closely, the people that are billionaires, the people that are controlling this system, that what is it that they know and why are they keeping it a secret from us? And ladies and gentlemen, I think that is where we need to go. We need to do that tonight. Y'all having a conversation about the moon. Anyone in DFW concerned about the air quality, dense fog today blocking out the moon? Yes, we can get into that later. I'm gonna make a whole note. We need to talk about this. Is the second time this has happened. I told somebody today there's something going on. So we will talk about it is crazy, y'all, the air, and it ain't cloudy. Okay, it ain't cloud from the atmosphere. You can't even see nothing up there. And at the time that we got a full moon, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that's the conspiracy side of it, but we'll go into that a little later after we go into the second part of the show. So we'll let so Misty hang on to that conversation because we definitely want to do that. All right, so let's go back into, I just showed you this particular picture into the serpent's mouth. This is the Vatican Hall. Now, if you think it doesn't get complicated enough, if you think the plot doesn't thicken enough, what is the one thing that we are told? And I'm just having these questions, y'all, okay? The one thing we're told to make sure you stay away from is these deities. I'm going to use the word deities, not demonic stuff, because we know there's a separation, all right? And so Snake Hall, as you begin to look at this, I wanted you to focus on that for a second. So the Vatican is there to say that we're going to curse, or we're going to protect you. We're going to put things in place so that you don't have this problem with demonic things, right? We're going to use this word. But yet, when the Pope sits down in his chair, okay, now we're all talking about the serpent's mouth. You remember that? You saw that. So when he does begin to speak, they bring out this other backdrop and he sits here. Now, that is some spirits for you, and that he's definitely letting you know that there is some things going down. And this is in plain sight, okay? It's not hidden. They don't care. They don't care for us to know, because you know why they don't care for us to know? Because they know we don't know no more than what we can see. Because they know we're not digging it up and trying to figure it out. But our subconscious minds do know what it is and what it means and what we're seeing without spoken words. And if it can sit there like that, and then they can control the entire city. And as you know, they're their own island, so to speak. They have their own rules, laws, and whatever, right in the middle of nowhere, just like we have with Washington, D.C. and the District of Columbia and all of that stuff. That's a whole nother story. We talked about that last night in the uncensored area. But where I'm going with this is there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things. And so when people start trying to say, Roderick, that's crazy, you're talking about reptilian. Well, am I really being crazy about this? Are we not time for us to wake up to understand that there is the possibility? You know, and I don't have the scriptures in front of me, but there is a scripture that says that those two people had some shiny, scaly skin. And I'm talking about them two people that were supposed to make all billions of us, which is virtually impossible, by the way. You know, if I got on an island with one of you all, let's say Misty, if me and her sat on an island and we started to procreate and we were the only two there, and our babies and start procreating. By the time the third, fourth, we're gonna have some there. You know what? By the time the third, fourth one, they're gonna look just like this on that backdrop, all over the place, everything. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So do not believe that all 5 billion people came from those two people. And if it did, you really, that means all of us are cousins. All of us are, well, DNA wise anyway, but you get what I'm saying. So when you start trying to think about some of these myths and you start thinking about all this other things, then there is a story. There is a story in all that. And let me, before I don't get any trouble, let me take that back, Misty. I apologize because I know that could be a sensitive conversation for people when people are talking about things like that. So the audience and all of you, it was just humor. And so don't let that represent YouTube or anyone else or the show or Roderick Martin. Just blame it on comedic conversation. Okay. So that y'all know. Boy, I got to have a disclaimer. Yes, we do. All right. So let's keep going. So do I have your attention now, though, people? You get what I'm saying? Do I have your attention that when we're looking for these shapeshifters and when we're looking for some reptilian eyes, when we're looking for that girl saying that whatever on that plane, when we're looking at all of those things, that's not enough. That is not what we need to be focusing on. Because the truth is probably going to rely in the one place that they have the most definite control system in place, which is the religious area. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is difficult for us to believe that there are reptilians underneath this ground, or maybe walking among us, maybe in a different vibration that we can't see them. You know what I'm saying? There may be a whole lot of stuff. And as my tagline and trademark phrase, go look it up, the U.S. Trademark Office, it is now registered several months now. You may not believe it. And that is my phrase in this true crime, in paranormal, UFO, alien. It's mine. I own it. You may not believe it. I own that. So go look it up. It's right there. So what I'm saying is, you want to look at that. She said, I was getting out of the car. We would definitely have some and kids if only 2 people's on the planet. Yeah, okay. So we're in agreement there. So you get what I'm saying? And we probably won't, Earth might not survive because we probably won't even make children. We probably, you over there and I'm over there, and the whole universe just fade out because we did not make those children, right? So that's cool. And I'm saying it is time to go look at what is happening out there in plain sight. So I challenge each and every one of you. I challenge you to go into the archives of some of our religious texts. I challenge you, if you begin to go buy books on reptilian stuff, it's so ironic that they don't start talking about reptilian beings. They all begin to point into the knowledge of scriptures and spiritual and old pictures and monuments and all of these things that ties back into this reptilian. Now, okay, maybe they just worship a snake. And that's maybe somebody can say that, right? Or that's what they were doing. They just worship the snake. Nah, these things have bipedal statues, walking on 2 feet. These things got stories behind them. When you go watch the Credo Mutwa tonight, I'm all weekend, I'm telling all of you, if you're a truth seeker and you are in that private area, it's up, it's ready. 6 hours of mind-boggling conversation, and this guy is telling the deepest of those things. It is worth you watching, okay? and maybe we'll talk about it next week in our private area because it can't be talked about out here. I can just tell you that. I can't repeat some of the stuff that's out here that he was saying, and it's unrepeatable. But the fact of the matter is, it could be all have some truth in that thing. And so those are the things that I would look at it from there. Let me look and see. In here, we have ahead of the game as well, I guess, all bananas. Okay. Sugar Honey IT's bananas. I'm just clicking. Y'all having conversation with yourself, so I'm not going to bother y'all today. I'll just keep chatting over here on my thing. All right. So, yeah. So in the movie Conan the Barbarian, James Earl Jones, what did he do? He turned into that large serpent right there. That was Conan had a whole lot of symbolism in it when it comes down to. Of course, we know the movie V. We know all of these stories and stuff that they try to show. You go start looking up Bill Cooper and the Pale the White Horse and all of different books and stuff. They start describing a lot of these stories and stuff that was happening out there that had something to do with the reptilian type of things. All right, so let's shift focus for a minute. We and I will tell all y'all too. This little book that I got from eBay, and it's called The Hip Hop and How and Why the Illuminati Took Over Hip Hop, and it's real interesting to really understand it. So it definitely focuses in on my particular community of all the hip hop stuff, or Eminem was hip hop too. But you go in here and it is so deep. But once again, they talking about the mark of the beast. They talk about all this stuff, and these people got dragons and snakes all over them. They all do. And so I think for you to know, just for contextual purposes, there's a difference between demons and deities, and then you have your gods of whatever. And I would assume that everyone thinks they're in charge or whatever. So that is something that you will look at when it comes down to that. But let's continue with the reptilian conversation. So if we take ourselves back to the Vatican, we start there, the most prolific, powerful place on earth. And then you take yourself to Mexico, and you have the depictions of the bird entities, the whatever. You go to Japan, and the mythical part of dragons interchanges with the reptilian stuff, just letting you know. You go all the way back to other places throughout the world. It still continue, even in ancestral stuff. And like I said, they start showing how that there had to been some type of interbreeding. So when you now get to, all right, Roderick, how is this all working though? Then you hear about the Elohim or the giants, the Anunnaki. Anunnaki could be reptilian. Then that goes back to how they could walk among us. How could a reptilian really, truly walk among us? Okay, well, maybe they have the power of shapeshifting, the electronic power that David Icke talks about, that sometimes we see malfunctions in the real world. Okay, they figured to do that. Now, how could they have done that? And I'm just throwing this out there because I'm not saying this is fact. But if they had a way to control not our souls, but the vessel that we have been told that we are in, then they have figured out a way to say, okay, we're going to take over the vessel with whatever presence that they're putting into it. And now we can control this, or we can get a duplicate, or whatever they decide. But obviously, there is some higher force knows that this suit that I'm wearing is so totally different from what's inside of it, that occupies it, that moves it, controls it, and the organism or whatever this is. And maybe they understand that a little way more than we do. Maybe they understand the world more than what we ever could do. And they say, okay, this is how we're going to control things. So we're going to look past the shape-shifting technology, because it does say that, hey, at some point the gods came down and said, okay, they found the the women of men or whatever we want to call it, beautiful, and they decide to make some babies, but they can only look like us to walk around. However, scratch that part, and when it says, what if we look like them? Because see, people ask me all the time, well, what do aliens look like? And I said, well, what if we look like them? Wouldn't that make sense? If they made us in their likeness, our images, wouldn't we look like them? All right, so that took me down a rabbit hole to say, okay, then I don't look like a reptilian. Well, the real reptilians don't want to be seen. They devise this system of illusion or energy, and of course we got parasites out there. We got all kinds of stuff. So the whole thing becomes so much of a complex, not just conspiracy, but a mind-boggling search for the truth, that now we take this thing to a whole nother level when we begin to go down that rabbit hole. And so once again, now we look past the point that we sit here, we're worrying about the fact that what is happening in society. And I'll put up this little image again so you'll get where I'm going with this. So we're not going to worry about this part right here, the global system, the think tanks, the powerful families, the world financial control, the whole 9 yards, and knowing that all of a sudden, if they want to do population control, they can do it through education, they can do it through media, they can do it through the governments, they can do it through religions, and the teachers, and of course they, award everything. So if you start looking at the whole operation, then I think now we can figure out that there are some issues with the whole system, because it's all there. If they're all connected, then there's an issue with the whole system. And I guarantee you, and if you look close into some of the stuff George Maxwell was talking about, they don't pray to the same places we pray to. They don't worship the same places we worship. In fact, they look at things totally different. And again, what's why? Why they don't want us to know? Well, maybe that's it. So maybe some of y'all can answer that stuff. And pretty much, yes, if you find value in tonight's show, please hit the like button. Post some comments before and after, especially after, to drive the algorithm so that we can have some things there. But once again, it's there. All right, so let's bag up for a minute and say, Thomas says, maybe they have taken our ideas from when we understood we were gods and played a part in us forgetting who we were, and took out the very own ideas and used it in their likeness. Possibility. At this point, we could look at all possibilities. It then just makes sense, because at some point we might just stumble on one of the possibilities that was so profound that it just makes sense. Why not? We ain't got everything to gain. We already lost a lot. So why not start looking at the possibilities? Why not start asking those tough questions and the tight questions too? Why not? We can do it. It doesn't matter at this point. So I think it's something that we can look into. We can go into what a lot of people talk about, RH negative, and the even scientists call it extraterrestrial bloodline or whatever. Now, I'm beginning to understand that doesn't mean that is a individual who sits and shines above everything else. That means that could be a science project that went awry. It could be a science project that's still on the loose. It could be, because again, that they're not trying to, because I'll tell you one thing, just like the Illuminati and a lot of these people, when they're looking for certain DNA, if that DNA of RH negative was something that they all wanted, none of the people who won't be here, or not in plain sight anymore. At this point, you'll be somewhere else where they want you and keep you and do the things that they do. So, but I'm not saying it's not something to look into. Once again, where did it come from? Where did it originate from? Who's doing these things? So we have a lot of questions when it comes down to that. Cristobal says, I'm no better, just different. Yeah, different is good, right? So that's all I'm saying. I would, and hopefully I didn't offend anyone, right? I was just saying that we tend to, begin a process of alienate, and using the word alien cliche it, right? That, I'm this and we're that, but we're all in the same fishbowl, and we're swimming around in this glass, and we can't get out of it, right? Unless we jump out and get some new air, so to speak. So that fishbowl is deep, it's huge, it works, it's sitting out there, and pretty much from there. So once again, the question would be, why are we turning in the wrong direction when it comes down to the reptilian stuff? And I've showed you pictures of, like Rihanna and a lot of these people, Doja Cat, all these people that show you the scaly skin. It's like they know too, or they've heard it. So now a little more scarier tone here. It is said that even though we see our system, our governmental system and all of this, that there are some people that look like us, but not from here, that are ruling the system, because everything says that they was here. They never left. If they never left, then they're walking among us. If they're walking among us, then there you go. There's a whole different story. And it's in every book. It's out there. But the fear factor of that is the fact that if that agenda is opposed the wrong way, they're not going to play with us when it comes to that. And this is why I'm really cautious about the things that I say. And I have a rule now, I have a rule. So for example, this is a real good book, and it says some crazy stuff and some predictions, and it come off of, like I said, eBay when I got it. If I was going to repeat some of this stuff that this author talks about, even though it may sound convincing, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find out, make sure this author is still walking among us. Oh, maybe the author has passed on. Well, I'm going to do a little more digging. Was it some mysterious situation? And if it was some mysterious situation, I'm not saying nothing in that book. That's just the way I'm doing it now. I got all these books. I go back and I'll check and see if the author is still around. If the author is still around and they can put it out there, then I can talk about it. But if they're not around and something they're coming up missing, then I ain't talking about it. I don't care how good the information is. So it's like, all right, cool, because I don't know what's in there that they said, or if it's mysteriously, okay, maybe it's some natural causes. The author was 106 years old, then I'm going to say, okay, that was just time did that one, All right. But if it was some, like I say, some young, and look at pictures and they was weightlifters or whatever, or running 5-10 marathons a year, and now they just mysteriously chipped over because they wrote a book about the Illuminati or reptilians or whatever, I'm done. I'm not talking about it. So that's my new rule. So, and that's all I'm saying. If it's mysteriously, I'm just going to take that for what it's worth. It's a sign. It is a sign from above, So that's all I can tell you, because it is the real deal. These things are happening, period. And so you just got to be careful, and I know a lot of people be like, well, just tell us or just do it. It is difficult for some of them people to do that, especially if you're going to start talking about reptilians and you are spot on. Maybe you got an address where one of them lives. You're spot on. Then what you do? Oh, yeah, man, a friend of mine said he was delivering pizza and the reptilian was at 202 Butterbean Street. Man, and then I'm out here repeating it on the podcast. Girl, hey, man, the rumor has it, go viral. 202 Butterbean Street is where the reptilian is. And he's like, no. We got to stop that messenger. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not doing it. So think about it. Think about how many people who have mysteriously something happen based on deep stories and things of truth that they might have really dipped into, because we hear the stories and we understand it. Now, when you think about David Icke, who has written tons and tons of stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. There's just as much as there's bad, then there's protectors out there, things that are protecting us from there too. So those are things that we have to do and so you have to think about that. So don't get me wrong from that. And real quickly, as you know, the book, The Unspeakable Truth, is now available for pre-order. So we need to pre-order so we can make the release a bestseller. There is a link in the description. It's going to take you over to Forbidden Knowledge. Billy Carson wrote the foreword on the book. Then I have some reviews by some other grand people that you all know. So make sure y'all go check that out and get you a copy of it. It's in there when you get to a point. Just want y'all to know that it's there. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue with the stories, which I'm not going to play a lot of those videos. But let's continue with those stories of people saying that they see reptilian shapeshifters. Now, according to knowledge, that they use visualize a puppet system where they're standing behind someone, and there's people who say they've seen this aura all the time. I've had people that say I saw them control systems or how they doing it. Then you hear stories of them just replacing some people, coming in with cloning or whatever they want to do, but the stories all are there. So when you start thinking about these stories, so you got shapeshifters, you have them controlling people like game consoles, then you have them living underground, okay, and supposedly that's it. Now, so we can also say, well, there are so many different aliens and stuff out there. Maybe everybody's in on it. Everybody's after us. Because one thing that you will begin to find out at some point, that whoever constructed, the God that created us humans, at some point created something of perfection, something that had emotions, something that had love. Love is the prevailing point. So before that, there was no love because we weren't even procreating, as we remember. If you remember that in the serpent story of the Bible, in the serpent story, okay, there we go, another reptilian story. Eve was bedazzled, and supposedly the story, I'm just telling you what I think, and I could be mistaken, but supposedly Eve had a kid with the serpent, and that's how Cain was born, right? And all right, so and then what she went back and said, okay, hey Adam, I need to show you something new. And he was like, well, I need to show you this intercourse thing because that's where she got it from. They, supposedly. And then him and them, and maybe because she was just out there like she was, and messed with both of them right after each other. Now they got a twin. I can't tell you how that happened, but Abel came into the point. All right. So now when you're thinking about this, one serpent kid and one of the other, what happened? Cain killed Abel. Maybe to say, okay, I want to make sure the bloodline continues or whatever the situation may be. I'm just saying, I'm just talking about it, right? So, and you can contradict it any way you want, or I'm not saying I'm 100% correct. I just remember reading this, right? And start asking the questions, right? Why? All right. So at this point, then the story begins. But again, I remember somewhere in one of those scriptures that said that, before the fig leaves, before they was hidden, they had shiny, scaly skin. Now, that ain't talking about a shiny snake. And if you ever own a snake, their skin is shiny and all of that kind of stuff, then you can go look at it that way. So I don't know. She said, is that why men don't know what they be doing? You mean like going to go buy pizza or something? They don't know what they be doing. Huh. Hey. Then, you women supposed to be spiritual guidance anyway, and goddesses and all. Why don't you just don't lead him straight down the path? Well, it is said that, and excuse my French people, y'all should understand what I'm saying. The whole overrule the pole. So why wouldn't y'all do that? So let me just go get off of that one. All right. So, so the point is that, let's see. So there are multiple cases where people have been convicted because they have unalived someone, and they claim that the motive for that unalive was because the person was shape shifting. That is true. That is some truth in that. People have, excuse me, seen the malfunctions of the system. People have seen the malfunction of the systems all the time. And so that is some truth in that's supposed to be happening. Now, there is a video that I'm going to put in the private area, and I've been harping on this. This is it's a podcast from years back. And the guy said that in order for you to see the reptilians, you can see them. And he mentioned that, say, for instance, you focus on like a building or something that's over here, and you get your eyes to focus on a building that's over here. And while your eyes are focusing, then you turn, but don't focus. I don't know how you can do that, but don't focus. And then you're going to see the auroras, and you'll see the shape shifting stuff. So you're supposed to be able to see that. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've been looking at, I have not bought them. Let me see if we can even share this screen. It may work. And this is for the reptilian stuff. Okay, let's do that. All right. So right there, this is on eBay. This is supposed to be some type of glasses that you can see demons. And there's another cheaper version that's $70 that supposedly you can see this certain aurora. Now, I don't know. And I'm not saying just because it's on eBay, it may not work. You just got to remember that they don't want us seeing a lot of this stuff. So what difference does it make if, and one of y'all are probably blessed with $200 that y'all can buy it and test it and just let us know what you see. You remember that movie, They Live, and so they had a situation like that. But yeah, and like I said, there's another version. Let me see if I have the other version. Okay, here's the cheaper ones. The cheaper one's like $89. And they got some different styles. But yeah, the cheaper one is like $89. Oh, let me click on it and then, hang on. All right. So let me just open another window. So the cheaper one's supposed to be, again, $89. Okay, here's the cheaper ones. So, and supposedly you're supposed to be able to see the auras and all that stuff of the paranormal. Yeah, and somebody said they from They Live. Okay, so maybe that's what it is. I would love to, one of y'all try it out. Let me know. If you're still around after you try it out and you see some stuff you ain't supposed to see, you come back and say you've seen them and they know you saw them. I'm not telling you what's going to go. Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to see them? Most stories that we hear about reptilians, when they see them, they make you, wet your pants. Y'all heard of Kalask when he was here, channeling. Hey, you saw him going into the channel. That was scary enough, So is that something that you think you want to see? You know what I'm saying? Damon says, hey, maybe that's one reason why the Secret Service wear glasses. You never know. Hey, why not? So I encourage some of y'all who got it like that to go ahead and go, go ahead and go buy them. Get you some. Let me know. I'm not going to be the first one to try it. I'm just letting you know. I'm a leader, but I'm not going to be the first one to run into a bunch of the arrows without a vest. And be like, y'all hang back. I got this. And I know it's 1642 arrows pointed at me, but I got this. Yeah, I got this. No, one of y'all go and buy those glasses and just let us know what you see. All right. And if you see some stuff, okay. And I'm not telling you to be afraid of it. I'm just telling you, I'm just not in the market for some red glasses that can see ghosts and all this stuff, because if that's the case. Now, I got friends that are ghost hunters and they can see apparitions, and that's good enough for me. when it comes down to this. Now, do I want to see it and talk to a reptilian? Absolutely. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Do I want one of them to be saying, hey, this is me and blah, 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 and maybe he's sitting right here and I can't see him in the other dimensions? We've seen that on Stargate. Obviously, that's how it works. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much you got some protection. Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about protection symbols versus seeing. It's totally different. Protection symbol is gonna, if that's what you're talking about, Glasgow, that's totally different than when I'm walking up to you just saying hi. I'm Roderick Reptilian. You get what I'm saying? And he's 8 feet tall and he's built, like a sumo wrestler, and he got tricks and stuff. That I think that'll be something totally different for us to think about when it comes down to that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just open to the concept. Yeah, I wouldn't mind meeting one, understanding it, and I wouldn't think I have not. Again, they can walk among us and pretty much do these things. Now, all right, because we have crossbreeding, this is why we do get the malfunction. This is why some people do still have more reptilian traits than someone else. Why somebody may have some scaly skin, why some person may have a couple of eye slits, and maybe why it transforms, and maybe why, if y'all remember Darren, who was here talking about the group, the Shylights, he talked about the reptilians. He talked about seeing his aunt open up her mouth and swallow a whole rat, and Michael Jackson's family was there. The Joe Jackson and everything else. We might need to get him back up here for a follow-up or something. It'd be real interesting to do so, and just to see what's going on. But I'm not saying the story changed or anything, but he talked about the Jacksons, the reptilians. I think what I've been trying to say all night is that, in spite of all the alien stories that we hear, in spite of all those things, we are starting to see that those roads are leading back to reptilians. Now, let me give y'all an honest admission that I want to admit to you. There was a time, and I still do, that I proclaimed to myself as being one of the leading authorities in the reptilian agenda, because I've been studying a lot of it. And every book that I have, most of the stuff and people that I started to talk to and call, once again, you have two sides of the story. So my admission to you is that when it started leading down the road against scriptures and Christianity or wherever religion, I was a little apprehensive of, do I want to go there and mess some people up? Because now it takes the show from more of a Roderick Martin approach to we'll be going a little more Jordan Maxwell approach, which I would love. I like Jordan Maxwell. Okay. But I just didn't know how deep I wanted to go to start saying here and there. However, one of the things that I wanted to see, okay, Charles says, I've seen them, but I didn't talk to them. It's really, yeah. All right. Charles, is your daughter at home? Maybe tonight, the second hour. We're not going to be here all night, but maybe the second hour, she can tell her dog man story. I got some more people that call me about dog man story. I just want you to know. And they're saying that these dog mans are there as some type of, the third person was, I was in a conversation with someone else and I didn't confer to them that I was hearing what I heard, but that these dog men are kind of protectors, that they're made and they're there for other reasons than what we think. So anyway, that may be a story. But so my mission was that I didn't know if I wanted to go down that rabbit hole. I was like, well, Roderick, why would you want to do that? It's got nothing to do with the audience at some point, because would they want to listen to it or would they not? Because everything leads to. However, that was one of the reasons, by the way, that I was telling you all, if you went to the birthday wish, and thank all of you who did, and we achieved it thanks to all of you who did, right? So my goal was to begin to go around looking at symbolism, maybe go out and talk to some people. So matter of fact, we're all set. In here is a bunch of stuff. This is a backpack. It's heavy. It's got the drone in there. Thank y'all. It's got the pocket camera. It's got the action camera. It's got the mics. It's got a little mic. So the street team, we're ready. We're ready to get out there. But I think we can get out there and talk about reptilians too. Maybe asking people about some things. Maybe go down to that place down on Deep Ellum, which we know is a lot of stuff, and just stop some people and talk. Now, I'm not going in there by myself because you got you got camera people, you got whatever. So again, if y'all are Dallas people, and by the way, Maya, we need to talk. I can't work that the WhatsApp because I was trying to add someone yesterday, and it just said you have to be an admin. I don't really know, but it's time for us to put the list together because we got enough people. So I think we can start looking at the weather, and we all can kind of get out. We're going to go to some old churches, and then we'll look around. We won't drive together on the bus unless we get a party bus someday, but we'll go to the places and sit out and have more conversation. Now, I need to get a video person that will film the videos, but I think we can walk up to people and begin to ask them, what do they think about reptilians? And just hear some of the myths out there in stories and people. And I think if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us talking, we may get a better response than 1 or 2 people approaching someone because, you know, it's all about social proof. And someone else just might say, oh, you know what, man? Okay, I'm not crazy because y'all not crazy. However, if you go downtown, there's a lot of spiritual groups there. And I'm not talking about warfare, but I would love to walk up to some because they're out there with bull horns, and they're praying on the corner and laying hands on themselves and all of it. I would love to just show them some scriptures and say, tell me exactly what this is, since you are professionals at this, and let them explain it. And we catch it on camera, of course, and come back and play it. But it is time, again, for us to go to even the people of cloth, because the word is the word. Supposedly, the word's supposed to be the word, and they go by the word. And let them say, "Look, man, tell me your interpretation of this." Especially when we go and look at some of those churches, because people are going to be walking by you, they're big stuff. But it is time to get a different interpretation and see why it's been covered up so much. Why has it been covered up so much? Because we don't even want to ask him. This is like make man in our image and the likeness of ourselves. Who is that? Oh, okay. They might turn around and say, well, Roderick, that is the Trinity. And if we think about the Holy Trinity, unholy Trinity, there'll be religion, thought control. You know, we're going to talk about the unholy Trinity. And I just put this on the screen for you. Based on belief, not the search of the truth, controlled by the dark occult priest, the essence of mind control, money, which is the mother, emotional control, perpetuates apathy, the new God within human beings, and devote their care and attention and energy to ultimate religion, the government, the child, the bodily control, perpetuates cowardness based upon erroneous belief in authority, which is why we have our show, Truth versus Authority. The New World Order. So maybe that's the route of the Trinity, but they're calling it the Trinity, and we can call it the unholy Trinity. And let me just say this, though, about money. I want y'all all to know this. Money is not everything, okay? We should begin to know that, right? People like Roderick, you working for the money. Money is not everything. However, junction, what's your function? However, which is a conjunction. I rate it right up there with oxygen. Okay, money. I just want you to know. It ain't everything, but I rate it right up to oxygen. So just keep it coming. We got to go get it. Okay, we got to go get it. So don't let it be no confusion there for any of us. Okay, when it comes down to it, you can go do some good with that stuff. You can monetize your message. You cannot have no broke message. I'm letting you know. You cannot have no broke message. Okay. If they send that email, Maya, put the .com on there. You have contact at Why the Big Secret. But it needs to be whythebigsecret.com. And then, so if you can edit that, that'll be good. And if they look for us in the group, it's the DFW Truth Seekers, and you'll see the blue sigil it's going to be there. It's there. So we can go there. Renee said cash rules everything. Shoot, that's the cream. They said cream rules everything, right? The cream cash from the streets. So I would love for us to talk to people about the reptilian agenda, right? And see what they say. We can talk to people about the Illuminati. Like I told y'all, there are signs, and one of the places I went was these old cemeteries, and you will see some crazy stuff on these tombs that people leave so the world knows who they were, and they wait until they left to put the symbols on their tombstones, headstones, worshiping symbols, all of this. And you'd be like, what? Like, this is my last word. You let everybody know, oh, I'm this. So I think it is something to do that. But anyway, we will do that in Dallas. We're ready. The weather is changing now. April, May is going to be good. So in the next week or two, we're good now in the 80s. We just got to find a good weekend to place some stuff together. But the first few things we're going to do is just huddle. We'll get a place where we all can sit out, meet and greet, talk to each other, share some stories, get people comfortable with talking about things that they couldn't talk about other people. And then from there, we would then begin to plan maybe an escapade or something in particular. But we're going to film it. We want everybody who's not in Dallas to be like, man, I wish I was there with them. But then y'all can start subsections everywhere else and stuff. And speaking of meet and greet, if you're going to be in the Conscious Award this year in Florida, start looking at the tickets. I think they're $99. It won't be in Miami, so it may be a little more cheaper for the hotels in Hollywood, Florida. I'm not really for sure. I've never been there. But make sure if that's the way you're going to do, we're going to do a meet and greet in Florida. And I'm having a live book signing there too. So if there's something you're going to do, make sure you do that. Damon says, I love cemeteries. Well, the energy is different. And I remember going out there and I literally said, I felt somebody was trying to go home and get out of there. And I said, no, dude, who, you, woman, whatever, you belong here, stay here. You're not going home with me. I had my protections on and all of that stuff. But I would assume that would be the place for hitchhikers waiting. You're going out there to visit your beloved ones, and then somebody else is saying, he's popular, or she's popular. We're just attaching to all their family. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, whatever. Then you would think maybe the spirit is where they were. If you got ghosts in houses, then obviously, and you know what? I have somebody that's a ghost hunter. I'm gonna ask her about that because it would make sense if the spirit left in the house where they passed away. How could they be in a cemetery, or how could they be everywhere? That is a good question for paranormal people, because then you just got to know nobody will be at the cemetery because none of them stayed there. But yet we get countless of stuff of spirits. So do the spirits still stay with the body even though the body is not alive? Or how do we have a ghost hanging around in the house and the body is 20 miles down the road at a cemetery? Why he didn't go down there with his bones? I'm gonna ask her all those questions. Yeah, because that makes sense. I would like to know that. Charlisa said, I have a theory. Don't make us wait. Don't make us wait. Tell us a theory. But I'm just saying it'll be something to think about. Glasgow said, existing in multiple places at the same time is like spit particle experiment. Oh, that's a little too technical, because that's the case. We could be everywhere. But I'm not saying you're wrong, but who knows? She said, I think it's because time is not linear. All right. So, but how does that work for someone who was in this house over here and then they went over there? Okay. So I'll wait for your answers. But the other part about this, most time they say the reptilians are vibrational. They can walk through walls. Maybe they're in a whole nother level, but yet they live underground in the tunnels, and it's supposed to be the safest place. We got all these cities, yet maybe they walk on top of the earth. Now, what I was told is that they actually have fear of us understanding the system of their existence. There are some type of fear, I'm saying, in the understanding of their existence. And supposedly that fear is what causes them to not be seen because we outnumber them. So you get a lot of people say if the people just fight back, or maybe you do this and maybe you do that, or whatever, that supposedly be a whole different scenario when it comes down to this. And maybe that's some truth in that. Again, there's a lot of truth in that. But supposedly the reptilians hide because we outnumber them. And probably was the whole point of us coming here. And now supposedly they outlive us thousands of years, which makes sense if you got some people walking among us that's been, like Superwoman. What was her name? Not Superwoman. Was it Superwoman? Wonder Woman. Was it Wonder Woman? Where she supposedly lived along. Remember, she was seen in these pictures over time with different people over time. And so that was different. Maybe they're not dead in their timelines, so they will be at their house and everywhere else. But they're not traveling. You know what I'm saying, in a car or something, but I get what you're saying. But that may be something we need to look into. So we're looking into. M. Thomas, that stuff doesn't scare me at all. I've grown up in those experiences. What? You talking about a cemetery? All right. I bet you we take you out to one of these old cemeteries. He'd be like, oh, I'm getting out of here. Those preachers that seem to need a private jet to reach God must have bad contract. Well, no, they got money. Yeah, that's it. I mean, if they saying that, that's what they want to do, because it's all about what you believe in. So they're able to buy that. He said, I mean, ghost. Oh, okay. I got you. Well, I'm not saying ghost is not ghost. I'm not saying that. But anyway, reptilians could be ghosts, though, right? We're talking about reptilians that are the myth of them. And that's why I said early in the show, if you just joined us, and to reiterate a little bit, if you begin to research the reptilian myth or folklore or whatever you want to call it, all this stuff goes back to ancient civilization all over, not just ours, this one, that one over here, everybody. And if you go back to Anunnaki being the creators or altering mankind, because we were already here at some point, that now we're now thinking that the people that are still here are the Anunnaki. They're still here. The fallen, the 300 that was missing. Remember, there was an alien story that came out. Go look up the book, Alien Interview. She said that they still looking for them. They got lost here, like 300 of them or whatever. Well, if you got left here, 300, and you want to become now the next god and all that, you might as well rule 1 billion people, mate with all the women that you want, change them into looking like whatever you want, and all your siblings. And then since we're all leaving here in 80 and 100 years, and they're living 1,000 years, because you got to remember, these reptilians supposedly live 1,000 years. So they seen things come and go. And then at this point, but what technology, with Earth being a young planet. Now, if you didn't know, Earth was supposed to be a project planet. Go look in some of the books that all of these creatures and things that we have on Earth are from different companies outside the universe, and that they all said, we're going to create this, and we're going to raise this, and we're going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. Then it's a different story. And you may never know what is happening there. So I think at this point it's something for us to look into once we get there. But like I said, we'll have a lot of questions when we're here in Dallas. And so we got enough people. We'll start planning our next outing. I think Maya is looking at a couple of spots. And then I think Misty is here. There's a couple of other ones. But I think we need to look at places where we can, like an outdoor place, maybe during the day, where like a park or something where we all can kind of just have a kind of a pot, sit down and meet people. Not a Dave and Buster's, too noisy, but something where people can share stories and see. What do y'all think about that? Just let me know in the chat for you Dallas people, that it'll be something where we can all just kind of chill, whether it's an evening event or day event, not a bowling, not where we spending money, where we just spending time together to get to know each other in kind of a round discussion. And now we'll get to really hear some extreme stuff. Some people may be a little comfortable enough to expand and tell us more things. Now we are going to have some cameras there, so well, 1 or 2 at least film something. You right? You know what I'm saying? So we would do that. Stepdaddy, she says sounds good. Okay, so all right. So as I come to a fork in the road with this conversation. So my question back to any of you, how many of you assume, think, know, have seen a reptilian? How many people think, know, assume, have seen some shape shifting? How many people assume, think, have, know people that you think is a reptilian? So share some of your stories there. Bring your lounge chairs and cooler. Yeah, we can do that. I got a good old lounge chair. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So in 2 weeks or less, once we'll look at the schedule and notice Texas bipolar weather, we're going to meet somewhere because the weather's changed enough now for us to get out. 80 degrees is perfect, sunshine perfect, and so we are good. Damon says I've had a reptilian experience. Okay, well maybe you want to share it. Maybe I'll reach out and call you and you share your experience. Maybe. I'm upset that I live in South Carolina. I really like to be there. Yeah, you should. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to grow. More people are going to know that we're meeting like that. I vision that we do like a night watch one of these nights where we find a dark place, maybe do some UFO watching, maybe even have a place where we can like put a fire or something out, and now we can hear some real stories, right? I'm ready. We're going to get out this summer. This whole, not summer, soon, spring, summer, fall. We're going to grow a collective, and so I wish you was here too. We can do it. She said, I think I saw someone, and you know what, Maya, that is something that a lot of people do talk about, that they're seeing reptilian shape shifting. And what's so defining about it is you really kind of do your eyes like this, like, did I see what I just see? Because it's a glitch in most cases. It's going to be a glitch in most cases when it comes to that. Someone says, Damon, get him on the line. Misty said, I think a link up at a lake is cool, plenty of space, and can do a picnic and bring your own food or whatever. All right, so be it. We're going to do it. So, yeah, we're going to do it in pretty much. So, consider it done, y'all. We're doing this. We need to have meeting places for our community in more states. Yeah, no problem. Exactly. I had to process that for a moment. So Damon, do you want to tell your story or not? I don't know if my phone thing will work, but if it don't, then it doesn't. But maybe get you in and out, tell your reptilian story. Anyone else got a reptilian? If you have a reptilian story, reptilian myth story, then let me say it again, reptilian story, then you can come up and say something about it. He said, I can. So can you come on camera? I know you can. If I put the link, you can click it and tell your story, because I'm not really for sure how good this phone thing working. And I do want, if you're going to come up and talk about a reptilian, y'all, but can you come on camera if I put a link? You are going to be helping out hosting sometimes, so you should still understand the conversation of being on screen. You know what I'm saying? I'm just calling you out on it. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, we got a reptilian story. She said, I heard a story. Yes, I need a few minutes. Okay, get your light. Let me know. And then when you're in the chat, I'll put the link and you come up. Tonight is face night, y'all. So, I got off the thing of having people showing their faces and stuff. And I know we got some good storytellers and informationists like Cairo and a lot of y'all that don't want nobody to see y'all and stuff. But if we're going to get to talk about this insidious stuff, I need you to know, we need to know who's saying what. We don't want nobody just saying some stuff behind the scenes. Anyone else got a reptilian potential quick or long reptilian story that you may want to share? And then it's something that we could do. But we'll wait on Damon. He'll be back here in pretty much. She said, I saw a story of guys waiting in line at Home Depot with a snake repellent to get rid of snakes in one of their yards. And the guy behind them started sneezing and began shape-shifting, losing his form. Huh. Well, that is Interesting enough, and it's not that that couldn't be possible. You know what I'm saying? It's not that it couldn't be possible because they're still going to have that DNA in them when it comes down to this reptilian stuff, and so uh, that is not a undoable situation or unthinkable situation. That is highly possible. That yeah, there's some truth in it. That someone could be uh, feeling that way, and pretty much. But I mean, not feeling that way, but you know, smelling or they're repellent in something, and then just drive them crazy. Um, I used to, well, now that I look back on when I had a pet store, and I had a lot of reptilian stuff, snakes and all this stuff. So it was pretty interesting to know what was going on there. So, mm yeah, I think it's pretty interesting to look at. All right, so let's continue down this road of the reptilian agenda. So let's start with what we do know. We do know that when you start thinking about it, and if you go back into the 13 Illuminati bloodlines by Fritz Springmeier, you're going to find that he talks about the original bloodline, the original bloodlines, the royal bloodlines all lead back to some reptilian stuff. So we already know when we start thinking about the royals and their whole thing. If you remember when one the main royal who left recently before the new one took over, they had all this kind of reptilian DNA sequences at the funeral, and it was like they was paying homage to this. Now we've seen countless of pictures of malfunctions, and then the bloodline of that, and then of course secret societies, and so we know the Illuminati branches everywhere. It's not just one; they all are fighting with each other. Everybody wants control of the money, the people, and everything too. But if you start thinking about vampires, blood drinking, sucking vampires, then it was said that I think Credo Mutua mentioned that once again, that I think that may tie into the fact that because the reptilians like to do that, that's where the mystical stories of vampirism maybe somewhat began. Okay, I'm not saying that it is, but supposedly that could be one of the backstories because they're still talking about this because a lot of stuff changes over time when they do that. So that would probably be something that again to do. But anyway, so you got the 13 bloodlines, and you have supposedly the reptilians controlling that. Now, once again, you still got these deities, you still got all of these things that are still tying into this whole agenda of it all. So it still makes it all get a little complex at the end of the day when it comes down to it. But at the end of the day, that is something that, once again, that you would have to look at. You mean the so-called royals? Well, royal, yeah. So with an S, because it's more than those, and those would be over there in Britain and all these other places. But the 13 families go everywhere, from the China all the way to Russia. They're everywhere. The controlling of that, supposedly the 13 main families, but they all have the rituals and things that supposedly incorporate into bloodlines. Blue bloods is what you will hear the terminology always come up in almost every vampire. Yeah, so you're going to have blue bloods is what they in Glasgow was talking about in the vampire story, but in the reptilian story, the whole genetics of it is supposed to be the blue bloods, and so you can see how the myth of the vampires and everything else change. Dawson said, "I have a uh, reptilian story." All right, so if you want to share the story, then I will. And if you're in real time, because you may be in real, maybe not in real time too. If you're in real time, then we can let you come up and tell your story on camera, of course. Like I say, no hiding today, so that we kind of hear some stories. We want to see what's happening. You could be a reptilian throwing us off the hunt. The reptilian not showing their face and saying, I don't know about that reptilian stuff," but then it's a reptilian, and so that's from that. Now, Dawson, where are you from? And like I say, Dawson could be because he just answered, I have a reptilian story. So he could be like 5, 6, 10 minutes behind us. So if we see him answers, or she, whoever answers where they from 5 minutes from now, then they're way behind us. So because some people come into the live at different times. And so that is one of the things. So when he does get this message, refresh the screen, come in real time, and then we would do that. All right. So Damon is getting his lights together. Obviously, he's getting spotlights and watchtowers and high illumination and all that. So when he's finished putting all those together, then he will be here with us to share his story from there. So let me continue what I was saying. So you can take the reptilian stuff back to the Illuminati's and them being controlling the system and everything else. Now I can't think of the life for me why they would just come up and say, all right, we're going to do this. So, well, let me back up for a minute. It makes a lot of sense because if you start thinking about civilization and people coming up missing, the Mayans and all these just coming, obviously somebody's taking them off planet and taking them somewhere else to a better place, and then leaving us to defend for ourselves. So if you go back to the Great Deluge or the floods or whatever, there's just so many stories. But like I said, I encourage each and every one of you to, and I'll say it again, go look up the scriptures and histories of reptilian stuff, and we will begin to see a, how can I put it, a pattern that is, suggesting that there is, terminology for us having reptilian DNA or the reptilian brain, all of these things that they're saying to us. And then the serpents supposedly, so if the reptilians are that smart to devise a system that of control, then supposedly maybe they're wise. And from that stuff, Dawson said, I got a lot of music and I'm a musician and has been on my favorite bands and members to Rich Private. Oh, I didn't realize that there was a comment cap here. Oh, yeah. All right. So Damon says he's ready. All right. So let me do an invite and get the greatness of Damon here. All right. So there's the link, Damon. We will wait for your arrival to share your reptilian story. And we will see that. Yeah. But anyway, Glasgow says blue balls come up. Oh, he said that already. And movies of vampires. Yeah. And so these movies know the truth. They know the stories when they do this. So I don't think it's something that they're not preparing us and stuff to know when it comes down to this, but they know the stories. There is an incredible story about the female lizard person, Lucerda. Very interesting. I think I was running across something like that, Jackie, in one of the books recently. I have a book and it has all these reptilian stories. And I could have sworn that I saw a story. Lucerda. I think I saw that. Space. So Sherrod woke up recently to a naked mantis reptilian through my closet, and I'm assuming looking for clothes to cover its pink behind as if it was sunburned. Huh, interesting. That would be interesting enough, pretty much. So, all right. So we have, all right. So Damon is getting ready to pop in, and looks like we have someone else. If you have a reptilian story, Robert, to share. Let me see about getting you on stage here. Robert, you got a reptilian story to share? No? You don't? You can't hear me?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, brother?
You got a reptilian story for us?
I do. I've kind of been infatuated with this for a very, very long time. I'm 25 years old, so I mean, as soon as maybe like 14. Anyways, I'll cut to the chase for the sake of time.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a musician. I follow a lot of live music, and one of my favorite bands is the Fish Jam Band. I know it's not everyone's taste, but I've like devoted a lot of time to going to these concerts because I really love their sounds, and I would always notice like really weird things in the
Now,
sky.
if you're gonna say something like really, speak it in code so we don't get slapped with YouTube. You know what I'm saying? If you describe something that if you think we can't say what you're saying, just tell us in code. But go ahead.
I apologize. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah.
Um, I have witnessed some strange phenomenon at some of these concerts,
Mm.
and I think it gets a little weird. A lot of hippies like that kind of music, and you got a lot of people that come to these places that engage in hallucinogenic drugs, and um, I have some mutual friends of mine. I mean, I have stories that are relevant to me personally, but I don't know if I'm quite comfortable to say them here. But I have multiple friends that have followed this group that we all kind of are just under the general consensus that there is our lizard friends like this band,
Hmm.
um, and there I've just met some interesting people in the crowd that you really wouldn't expect to be there. Um, and I think I kind of just I had to take a step back from going to some of these shows just because I didn't like how vulnerable I felt in that space, knowing that I was interacting with things that might not have been human and definitely weren't human. Open to exploring. I just I like to feel comfortable and grounded, and if I don't get a good vibe, it makes a person pretty anxious. uh you know it's like, are we friends or not? But um the last big show that I had seen, the concert actually got rained out. There was like insane thunder, and we had to get evacuated, like literally evacuated from the venue, and we all go home or to the hotels or whatever. I was staying in an Airbnb, and we were right on the beach, and it was awesome. And me and like my ex partner and two of my friends, we were just sitting on the beach, just enjoying ourselves. And then all of a sudden, the ground is literally like, it's not like the natural like flow of like the wave energy. Like the ground literally starts to rumble a little bit, and so I get scared because like I've lived in the woods several times in my life. Like I'm always looking up. I'm very out there. I live in the mountains, so I've seen a lot of things, and so I'm on edge immediately. And a craft appeared, and I immediately tell my friends to come inside because I just would feel safer if we were inside where like we can see each other. And I just began to have like this uncanny like feeling that like I was, being visited by something that I could not see. And my friends uh they don't want to go inside. They wanted to stay and look at the object in the sky, but I was persistent and I was like, we need to go inside. Sometimes I get a little protective, and you know, like sometimes I'm comfortable when I'm witnessing a UAP, and there's sometimes where I'm like I have a bad feeling and I just like really need to, you know, uh bunker down bunker down, I guess. And so we're inside, and I I went into like a trance like state, and I've been known to do this throughout my life, but on this particular occasion, it was really interesting because like this state that I entered was very, very, very lizard-like. Um, I just like immediately just like after like trying to calm down, sitting on the couch inside, like felt like just ripples. Uh, Hi, my name is Vibrant, and I am not a lizard. That but I like it almost felt as if something was like messing with me, and
Hmm.
like I felt like scales like ripple up my arms, and like I felt like my tailbone protruding, and I was just kept doing different yoga positions, like just to try and like ease the comfort, because like I just like did not feel good. Like I just did not like feel like how I normally felt. Thankfully, I was with some good people, and they were able to calm me down. Um, we would go out to the porch to like look and view, you know, this craft. I believe it was directly above the building or invisible at that point, but eventually the sensations, you know, subsided. But um, and you know, maybe I had already said some things that I shouldn't have on here, but I just
No, you're good. I mean, I know it's, I can see the stress that it have. Real quickly, what was the name of that band you was talking about?
ooh uh PHISH.
Okay. All right. There was a few people in the chat. So let me take you through this a little bit, if you don't mind. So you sound like you were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were almost going through a metaphor yourself. Of course, you make sure, hey, I'm vibrant. I'm not a reptilian, so you want to make sure you put that out there. But the whole point, did you feel that this was coming from within or coming over you? Because that's going to be a different
Coming over.
experience. Okay, yeah, over you, yeah. So that's going to be a different experience from within. We can get into that paranormal side of it, especially when they're trying to take over you, right? Now, you also said that you 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 always going to these different events that was kind of, so what make you say that the events was kind of reptilian? Were there any symbols or just kind of the feeling? Was there any type of people doing snake like dances, worship? What was
Well,
giving you that indicator?
well, the music itself, like they have like, and this is not an exaggeration, like 3 to 4 hours of original material written about like a lizard race that lives underground.
Hmm.
And not only that, and a lot of just like, and it's like a saga, like it's like a story. They don't do it any, like in the 90s they would sometimes like perform these songs together, but now they just like hint at them now and then, now or here and there. um but like a lot of their like music is just like lyrically like symbolic of serpent energy.
Do you remember any of maybe a line or two?
I can't quote it off the top of my head.
That's cool. That's cool.
To be honest, I'm more into like the instruments being played. Um, but uh, they have a segment of their ensemble that pretty much tells a story about a race of lizard people that get forced underground
Mm.
because of a comet, and some of them come up and try to work with the pig people, and like, and I would love for someone in the comments to potentially, correct or adjust me there.
No, there are some people saying that that band has some most loyal fans in the world, and some of them, someone else saying there's science to their music. It makes sense if they're going to. I think through music, we're now finding through music, sound, all of this stuff is when you start thinking about penetrating our souls in all of this. We think we can block what we hear. We think we can cover our ears up, but sound has a way, depending on the frequency of it, can travel unbeknownst and enter into us without us knowing. Sound can go through walls, right? It can go through animate objects. So if you think about it, our body is flesh and blood or whatever, sound can penetrate it. So why not in tune sound frequencies with hidden codes, messages? And I'm gonna say this, and I'm not trying to be a little different about it, but I was telling people that I think it's time for us to learn some of these different things that they're doing to better our lives or whatever. So, for example, if that group has a loyal fan and they have figured out a way to incorporate mystical things within their music to keep people connected, to keep them buying, to keep them, it's like that. What is that symbol where the flute is playing and everybody's following them or something? The whatever, the deity or whatever, or
Yes, the snake whisperer or something.
yeah, and everybody's just following because they to the tune. And I'm not saying that good people can't use great recipes to do great things with the outcome of it, because I believe that that's true. But whatever the situation is, somebody has some code to our mind. They have codes to our body, and they know the Pied Piper. Yeah, they know how to use it from there. So again, you have more you want to share, or because I know it's kind of uncomfortable for you. So.
I've had some dreams. I am one of those individuals that have actually experienced like sleep paralysis. Like this is not an exaggeration, but like around 900 times, maybe more. But I mean, I don't really want to go into it only because I've never really like expressed this on a platform like this.
I get it.
It's
tough. It gets tough because sometimes, a lot of people won't admit it, and you don't have to do it here either. But man, some of those things are coming in, sleep paralysis, trying to mate with you, succubus, whatever they want to call them. But these things are not playing when they come. But the thing about it is the fact that, like you said, we had so many. Obviously, there is a connection there from there. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming up, sharing your story. It takes a lot of, and I feel great that I can create the environment that people will be comfortable enough to come up, even for the first time, second time, or whatever, because that's something I was known for back in the day, creating that safe haven so people can do. And so I will tell people in the chat, y'all make sure you all respect when people up here, there just certain things that, we have in the moderators for sure. I mean, if it just seems appear that when we got people sharing these real experiences, that we understand that and be cordial. And so you guys mod on that. But anyway, I appreciate you coming up, Barbara.
Thank you. I appreciate your work.
All right. Thanks. You. Mm-hmm. All right, Damon, how's it going with you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You all, this is Damon, the Reptilian Experience, and thank him for getting on the camera and coming. We haven't seen him since last year.
Whatever.
Yeah, and all that good stuff. But that was a lot of people don't understand how hard it is for the emotional impact on some of those stories. As Vibrant was just, sharing his story, because it gets that way. I get it. I understand what happens in these scenarios, because it's hard, man. It's really hard because we're not understanding it. But anyway, how things going with you? And thank you for coming up. Before you get into your story, is there anything tonight that kind of resonated with the reptilian stories to you?
To be honest with you, Whenever
You're not gonna lie
there's
to us, right?
no, of course not.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be very frank. My heart is on my sleeve here. Be nice.
All right, then. Come on with it. Come on with
All
it.
right. Whenever the subject of reptilian comes up, whenever I see it on my TV, I mean, I watch alien stuff all the time, all day, all night when when I have time to watch programming. Um, and whenever I come across reptilian, it's like uh, another form of PTSD for me. But
Mm,
like, I can't say that I'm comfortable with it. I think that I've just dealt with that experience and that feeling that I had when I saw it and how close it was. And I always get like a flashback in my mind about what happened, but there's some confusion. Now I've spoken about it before, a long time ago on this channel. And people that are very close to me, um, I've told them about it. Um, and then my parents know about it. My dad still remembers it. I always feel as if I always feel as if he's keeping something back from me when we talk about it. But anyway, you'll understand when I talk about this. But whenever I see it, I just think about what I experienced. And I get that flashback. And I think about it now I'm 46 years old. And this happened to me when I think I was about 5 years old. And
mm.
I remember and I had a series of incidents throughout my life, but I don't know if I think that it's related to that, but I'm confused and I'll explain that. So, do you want me to tell you what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I was, it was in the middle of the night. Now, whenever I had to go, my parents made me go to bed. I was so, I was always really nervous about going to sleep. Being on the second floor and the house was all dark, and I would see things. I would see shadows moving on the wall. I felt like somebody was watching me, and I would always sleep with covers over my head, and I would be drenched sweat. Like I was too scared to remove it. I would hear things in the room. And I always used to want to keep a light on, but my dad was always against that. Like, no, you can't be afraid of the dark. But there was reasons why I was scared of the dark. I was seeing shit, but I was seeing stuff, and I didn't know.
Now you good?
I didn't know how to like explain that to him. Um, anyway, so one night, this was one of the nights where I convinced my dad to leave the light on. Every now and then he would do it for me. And there was a light. I slept in bunk beds, and there was a dresser um, on that. So the bunk bed was like here. Well, anyway, bunk bed. I was sleeping in a bunk bed, and there was a dresser against the wall, which was behind me, a really tall dresser, and it had the light on it. And the light, it was this little light with a shade, and it would just shine down right on that section, so I could at least see some of the room, and that little bit was illuminated, and I felt comfortable, and
Mm.
I would go to sleep. And I that night I had a bunk bed, so I decided to sleep in the bottom bunk. And I remember waking up. I just woke up out of the blue. It was like I have this thing where somebody could walk in the room, I could be dead asleep, and I will wake up because I feel the person, and it will wake me up, and I'll look right at you. I'm weird like that, but I just feel people. I feel things. I can feel. Anyway, so I, f- I guess I was feeling that, and I woke up, and one thing that I think about this all the time, my whole life. I think about it at least once a day. Um, One thing that I remember specifically when I woke up, it was like I was in a vacuum. Like I could hear, it was so quiet. Like you could drop a pin on the floor and you would hear it. That's how quiet it was. And there was carpet on the floor. That's how quiet it was. And
Mm.
I remember that's one thing I remember that was very strange. And it was like, like when your ears get clogged,
Mm-hmm.
it was like that. but I was inside. Anyway, that's how it was. And I felt somebody behind, like someone behind me, and I was scared to look because it was the same feeling that I get when I felt like somebody was watching me, but I could feel the presence. Like I could feel the, I don't know, you could feel the person standing there. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a board. There's, the bunk bed. It was like a board, and then it was the bar, which was the base of the bed, and then the top bunk. And I was little, so I looked. No, there was a board here, and at the bottom of the board, you could see the floor. So I turned my head and I looked, and I saw these like they were like green paws, and I was like looking at. It, I was like, I'm looking like it didn't make any sense, and it was really still. And I thought, who's standing? Like who would? Who's? I was confused, and it was like these. It looked like paws. I remember, and they were really, and the legs were really thick, and they were green. And I remember looking up, and I could see, and I'm looking close because I'm thinking, am I awake? Like what's going on? And it's still really quiet, and they were standing really still, like almost like I got the impression that they were thinking, oh, I think he sees me. Like they were like, oh, let me just stand still. Maybe he won't see me. That was the impression that I remember getting.
Now, how tall were they, or how big were you? Well, you
Oh
were a
my God,
kid.
it
You
was
were a kid, so
huge.
everything is
I was
big.
a
So,
kid. No, but my dad's really tall. My dad's like 6'2". This thing was huge. It was taller than him, but I hadn't looked that far yet. I just remember how big the paws and the legs were. And as I'm looking close, because that light was shining down, I could see it was like wet, like not slimy, but like the perspiration. And you could see all the lumps. It was like the lumps, like a scale, like the lumps of his, and I could see it was shiny because the perspiration, I could see it running down in between the grooves and all over the lumps. And I'm looking up like, what? And I remember looking over the board, and I put my hands up, and it was like, oh my God. I remember just looking up, looking up, looking up, looking up, looking up, and his back was against the dresser, and he's real still. And I looked up, and I remember looking at his like face, and I think he had, I don't know, some kind of clothing, some green. There was some sort of outfit. I don't. His clothing was weird. I remember that, but I wasn't really concerned about that. I was concerned more about what I was seeing. I didn't understand. I was scared, but really scared about. I didn't. Am I really seeing this? And I remember looking in his eyes. And then when I looked in his eyes, he didn't move. He just looked down at me, like with his eyeballs moving. He looked at me, and I spoke first. I said, hello. And then he looked at me. But when he said hello back, but when he spoke to me, this is where I'm confused. I don't know how long the interaction was. I don't remember everything, but I don't know. But I remember when he spoke to me, it was like I can't remember if he moved his mouth or I think he did, but I could hear him in my head. It was like an echo, like in the front and then around it was in my head, but I
hmm.
could hear him. But when I heard him, it was like I didn't hear him through my ears. That's one thing I'm confused about that. I don't know what that was about. And from what I remember, there was some exchange of conversation. I don't know, but it felt like an eternity. And I got the energy to get up and I ran out of the room. And then I thought, let me look back because the last thing I wanted to do was go in and wake up my dad and tell him that I knew I would get in trouble. He would be pissed off. It was in the middle of the night. I don't know what time it was, middle of the night. And as I remember looking back as I was running and he was still standing there. Now, if I was sleeping, why would I look back? Well, how would something be there?
Yeah, it's a lot of times there's a difference between um, dreaming and having the experience. Um, so when you were in the room, you were describing everything as it is. Oftentimes when we're dreaming, things are not in the same place. So in other words, the clock may be different or something, but when it's
No,
a real
everything.
experience, everything is identical as though you are awake. That's how
Oh
you
no, I
can
was
defend it.
awake. There
Yeah.
was no doubt about it. There was absolutely no doubt about it. And as I went back, everything was still the same. That light was still the same. Everything in that room was still the same. But one thing that I know is when I was focusing, I think because the light, it just illuminated that one area.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I was such in shock that I had a really big room. We had a big house when I was a kid. And but everything was exactly the same. Everything. There was no difference. No difference. When I got out of the bed, even the bunk bed, it made this little creak when you would get up. And it did that when I got up. I remember that. I remember seeing the perspiration on his skin. I remember the exchange of hello. I vaguely remember a conversation, but I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. I
You
can't remember.
take me back to, or us, back to something you said, that you made a talk to your father, but you felt he was
Yeah.
holding back. Why?
Well,
Why were you getting that?
because when I went to the room into my parents' bedroom and I went in there and I was like, oh my God, I was freaking out. Now I've done that before as a kid, but it wasn't that I saw. I was afraid to tell them that I saw spirits or whatever, but I just was scared to sleep in my room, and I would say I want to sleep with them. So, but I went in when I busted in that room. That was like. I remember my mom getting really nervous because she could tell, oh, there's somebody in the house. Because I went crazy. And he got up, and I could tell he was kind of looking around. Maybe he was going to grab a bat or something. And he got up and he ran in my bedroom. And when he ran in my bedroom, there was this pause. And I remember sitting next to my mom, and we're looking, and he was really quiet. He didn't say anything, and he slowly walked back. And
Like,
then,
oh shit, yeah.
yeah, but then he said, Damon, did you see anything? He said, no. He's like, go to sleep. And that was it. Now, that's not my dad's. My dad was a military man. He was a little cuckoo. So he usually, so this is a black man, okay? Like he'd have been like, get your ass back in that room.
Right, right.
That time, it wasn't, he was just like, go to sleep. And then he
Now,
made
did
it
he
a
say go
point.
to sleep, like go back to sleep, or sleep with
No,
us?
no, he didn't make me go back. He was like, sleep right here. And he
Mm.
got back in the bed. But um, I couldn't sleep because I was so freaked out. And I was like, did you see anything? And he says, Damon, no. You know your parents. You know your parents. And I was just like, there's no way. He goes, it was your imagination. Now, my dad was a big Temptations fan, or
Mm.
is, I should say. He's not dead, he is. And there's a song by Just Your Imagination, and he would play that for me because I was so petrified. I couldn't sleep in my room for days. I would refuse. I was like, "You're gonna have to spank me. I'm not going in there. Whatever you got to do, I'll take it." Like I was that adamant. And
Just your
but
imagination.
yeah,
Mhm.
whenever I hear it, I think about my dad and I think about that experience every single time. But he was playing that because he was trying to console me, and I felt as if he was trying to convince me.
Mm.
Now, the reason there's more to this. The
And he
reason
could have
why,
done it in more authoritative way, but this one he was like, I can't really get on him because it's true, but I gotta let him know it's not true. But I'm not gonna whoop him for something that was true. But
right?
just it's your imagination, son.
Well, no, my dad told me actually, as I got a little bit older, I remember asking him. Oh, no, he was talking about experiences that he used to have when he was a little boy. He said, now this was after that, a few years after that. He said that there used to always be someone at his window, either outside of it or inside of it. And they were outside of it, they were always telling him, open it and let me in. And he said this used to happen all the time. And that's all he talked about it. So I'm just like, I just know that I to this day I'll ask him every now and then, you remember that? He goes, yes, I remember that. He
Wow.
remembers them. Did you see anything? He goes, no, I didn't. But I just don't believe him. I don't believe him.
Wow.
I don't.
Man,
I've had experience with missing. I don't know if it was not. It might have been missing time, but the whole. I told you about this.
Hmm.
Driving was with my sitter, and I was a kid. This was around the same time, and probably the same year. We were in the car, and we were going back to her house, and her whole street was different. It was the same houses, but they looked different, like spray painted and like just. And she was like, "What is this?" And we pulled up to her house, and our house looked abandoned. It was her house. So we got back in the car, drove back out, came back around. Everything was the same. And she ran in the house like her husband was home. And she's like telling him about it. And he's looking at her like she's crazy. And I would bring it up sometime and she would change the subject. This was around the
Wow.
same time that I had that experience. So I'm like, what is this? But I've never seen this reptilian that I know of again, that I know of. But there was an exchange. I know there was. I'm afraid to do a hypnosis because I mean I want to, I'm curious, but I'm still scared because I was petrified. And to this
Yeah.
day, like I'm not scared. I'm much more curious now. I'm like,
Yeah.
what was the point of that? What happened? Who was that? Why?
Yeah.
That's
No,
my experience.
I appreciate it, man, because my question, even though you're more curious, how do you feel? You know, I mean, I know you probably don't just go around sharing this story, but at the end of the day, how have you carried it so long without the answers?
Well, because I'm also very spiritual. So, I mean, I've always seen ghosts. I know things about the future. I know things about people that I just don't. I mean, I just know things. I know I've been able to um foretell someone's soon passing
Mm.
without any. I just knew my godmother. Like just I've always I have I guess I have some gift. I know I do. I just don't like to. My best friend's very spiritual. So he always tells me, he's a medium as well. And he's been taking classes and he's had given me practice. I've been doing some things. I've gotten more comfortable. I've done mediums for people and I've been very accurate, strangely. So I think that part of me um gives me um some peace, but I also know that all reptilians are not evil. And I also know, and I am 100% certain that that reptilian that I had a exchange with, or that experience with, there was no malintent at all. I just don't understand why. I mean, I was able to speak to one person about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a channel on YouTube.
The reps.
Sterling.
Oh, Sterling. Okay.
Sterling. I had an exchange with him, and he told me he can see people who have had abductions, and he told me that because I didn't know what it was, and he goes, "You had that was a reptilian," and he said, "But it was there for something in the area, and he wasn't for you. He wasn't there for you, and you saw him." And he said it was just, I guess, I don't know. That was his explanation.
You're gonna have that children have the most purest soul in the purest eyes. So once we get older, from our experiences and the illusions of things, our mind will play tricks. But as a kid, reality is reality.
That was no trick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Definitely
So
no trick when I was a kid.
Yeah, reality is your reality because it's and we're able to And it goes all the way back to why you have these rituals, or they're always after the young souls, which are the purest of them all. I appreciate you coming up, sharing your story, because I know how difficult these stories are. And I'm just glad that we're able to create a platform. And it may be something we need to get back to, because in my beginning days, that's all I would do was create a safe haven for people to come share their stories. I got away from it a little while, but I still see the impact, and that was one of the reasons Project Black exists, and it's going to be in full throttle for sure this year. The Black League of Alien Contact Knowledge, not just for Black people, but it's just
Right.
to focus in an area that I say is disproportionately reported.
And it's a good thing that you're doing that. It's
Yeah.
and I hope that more people watch and they understand, even though, the Black League or whatever, everybody's welcome.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I've seen, all kinds of different demographics here. And it's good that they understand that they're welcome. And I want the I I I really think that as you grow, and I'm certain as you grow, which you are, and you will grow even more, that people, are going to have an understanding that, there has to be a call out there for people
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
us. There has to be, and that call, they're there to answer it with us, and that's what it's about,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Um,
I'm with you. Again, you know, I've wanted to go personally very deep into what I call the reptilian agenda, so much that I would do a daily affirmation, even as of today, that I am the leading authority of uncovering those informations. Ever since I did that, a lot of stuff started coming to me and things. And like I said, I believe that there's good and bad, just like anything else.
yes.
Because we have to have a duality. We have to have, the yin and yang, so to speak, the
Mhm,
balance when it
mhm,
comes to that. Um, and I think that when one person shares a story, another person will share, and everyone is comfortable. Our chats are cleaned up by the mods, and people are respecting. And again, it is something that we want to get back and do more of, and I am doing that. It's just a challenge I'm looking for now, and I still haven't accomplished yet, is to get audience integration and start sending links and things that we see out there, because I can't see everything, pretty much. In
mhm.
fact, while you're sitting there, here's the logo for Project
Yeah, I got
Black.
that shirt.
Yeah, you got that shirt, and there's a reason why that is a not a gray skinned alien. It's a reason why it has a third eye. There's a reason why it has a skin color, and it's a reason why it's wearing Egyptian clothing. And that is a story that someday we will reveal immensely. Damon, I appreciate you coming up. Actually, it's better having you here there instead of being a co-host that you never showed up for. But I appreciate you, brother.
I take your pettiness as a hug because I'm petty too, so I get
Yeah,
it.
I'm petty.
Much
I'm petty.
love.
I'm petty, man. I'm petty. All right, brother. Much love to you as well. All
Okay,
right.
I'll be in a chat. All right.
All right. All right. So there we are. Again, wonderful story, wonderful person. Known him for quite some time. He's been very authentic from day one into today as well. And so um, we have a lot of authentic people here in our audience. And I do appreciate, those things to, again, him, Vibrant, which is Don, which is, in the chat. And, just for us to do that. And if there's more people out there that share, then it helps. But it is going to be a collective. It is going to be a collective because we're dealing with childhood memories. We're dealing with trauma. And trauma is real when it comes down to this. And I think it's important that people understand that when we're listening and hearing these things. I do know that when we start doing our outings individually, we're going to hear some real deep stories because people are going to feel even more comfortable to do that. And so I strive to give people the comfortability, because there's no ridicule here when it comes to this. It's not that or any kind, but it does take courage. And oftentimes, if y'all been here before, some people will choose that this is the first time that they've told some of their stories. And I feel really honored, but also, as a place that this is something that we want to share. And I knew there was a couple of you that said that as he was speaking, I saw a few chats that it opened up some wounds for you, thoughts and things, and that's what is going to happen, because what happens with trauma is imagery, and when someone begins to share their image of their stories, then it will pop up your story or your image, and it's something that you might have suppressed and forgotten, or it pops up, and that's why we need these things, and as we do what we do, and pretty much. And so again, shout out to both of you, Vibrant and Damien, for coming up, sharing your story. And those of you who may have wanted to share your story, maybe next time you're compelled enough, because you're going to have to get it out. You're going to have to finally have someone to hear you. And we're here to do that. Not just me, but this whole audience, because at some point, once you are heard, you get some little vindication. You'll get to understand. And I don't do a lot of probing, but there's a lot of questions I could ask and don't, but I just try to ask the pertinent ones just to fill in the gaps, the emotional gaps that people are dealing with when it comes down to this. And it's tough. We're not therapists here. And I will suggest in some cases that people should. Damon mentioned, about getting a regression, and that is totally optional, and it will explain something. Now, one of the things, Damon, and I will say to you is, if it's something that's generational, usually these extraterrestrial beings watch over or do things over a lineage, a bloodline, DNA based. Okay. So they track and do things, and they know that this DNA, because DNA just keeps being passed down over and over and over. And so if it's happening to a father, if it's happening to the grandmother, if this is something that's in people's families, then there's going to be a DNA-based situation to where they're tracking, because they're living for thousands of years. They can follow all of the lineage to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, until they decide that they want to extrapolate that DNA and do some other things with it. And then we can kind of go from there. It might be an idea to interview a therapist to hear many stories on the subject. Yeah, we could, but sometimes the therapists have to follow protocol. They just can't share everybody's stuff, but individuals, but referring people to therapists at some point, that's always been something we've done on the back end. Paradis. Okay. I'm just butchering that name, but don't hold it against me. But those are the things that we can say. All right, we've been here for a couple of hours. It's Friday. We're not going to be going 4 or 5, 6, 7 hours as we used to. I am using Palu. It's French. Okay. Palu. I know I'm still messing it up, but I get it. It's French. But the rest of y'all can hear it, all right? Y'all get the right place in all of that. Yeah, so, if no one else has a story that you want to share, then I'm probably saying that I'm about done. I could stay here all the time, but, again, this is what we do. So if you enjoyed the content tonight, make sure you share, like the information. This is a community funded show, but I did not put the Cash App or nothing up tonight, so that's fine. We're not going to do that, even though it should. It's Friday, right? Some people may be saying got a little abundance on a Friday. So let me put it up on the screen just in case. It's right there at the top of the screen, but also your time and everything else. So to the people, I love you. I've always said I do, and I really mean that. I love what I do, and I love that we are growing, we are getting bigger. as an audience. And although I wish and know that we can 10x in this, I think I'm gonna figure out something where we may do a new guest. So let's say that I run a contest, maybe some giveaways, and that each of you invite people to the show. And then if those people are in a chat, they'll say, you know, I was invited by such and such. So if somebody get 5 people, then they win some free gifts or some swag or something. Maybe we might start doing that. You know, that was kind of brought to me a little bit by the greatness of Cairo. And so we may figure some stuff out to begin to, you know, bring more people here. But I want to make sure I'm tailored with the conversation. I still might go a little deeper, more of our reptilian conversations, because that seems to be an interest of mine and yours and all of us. But that will then also require us to fish the internet, not Twitter, but TikTok, Instagram, and finding some people that sharing these stories, who telling their testimonial. And then we all be a little vigilant and get out and get their numbers or send them an email, have them to contact me, so we can have it on the show. And if we can do that, then I think we can build a reptilian pillar show where we're about to be the only ones that's going to focus and really go deep dive into this thing and start bringing more stories out. And I think we just may hit pay dirt. So I don't know what y'all think about that. Let me know in the chat if you vibing with that. Nina says, let's uphold our brother. Thank you for the contributions and everything else. So, you know, I think it's just things that we could really do, and pretty much from there. So as you know, again, Maya, if you send the emails to me, and then I'll send it right over to her, and we can put you. But if y'all search for the DFW Truth Seekers, I don't know how to add you. I was trying to add someone today or yesterday. I think we was having a conversation. Someone said, I love the symbolism myself, but bring it all in. I am trying to put all of that together. I do spend a lot of time to make sure I tailor our content from symbolism, what type of symbolism, because symbolism is in a lot of different categories. From, you know, you talking ancient symbolism, you got symbolism within religion, symbolism within pop culture, symbolism. And I have filed the trademark, the symbolizer, so that's already setting in motion of where I want to go. And so I have been a little just kind of trying to make sure I tailor it, because you can't go everywhere. And so I do try to make sure I put little content ideas. Some work, some don't. I know a lot of the mind control stuff we might have to stay away from. A lot of people gets offended, you know, when they're being told that they're under mind control, so they don't like that. A lot of egos, you know, I get it. But I do admit all of us has been hit, you know, and people just think that they have not. And I get it. It's their right to feel that they're perfect in every way, and you should be, you know. But the sad reality is that they have been doing this for a long time, since we were children. We're just now recognizing it, and we just don't really know the total effect of the system, the programming. But if we do symbolism, like more of, you know, what's happening in some of these videos and stuff that they're doing, and that symbolism is just really identification, that they're identifying themselves as part of a cult or whatever they are. But we also can catch symbolism that is sending out messages subliminally to make us think, feel a certain way. And so those are things that we can do. So again, I have not figured out how to make sure I get a unified front from you all. And honestly, exception of a few people, it gets to a point where most of the people do not follow through on what they say and do. And of course, I'm probably made some mistakes too. But when I do try to take this seriously, there's a lot of people that do not follow through. So I do get them. I do get people that put stuff in the chat and their usernames and anonymity, and maybe that's great because they don't have to follow through it. Nobody know who it really was anyway. But you know, that's why I would love for people to show their faces because I show mine. I'm not hiding. Everybody know my name. They know where I live, my address. And if I'm going to build relationships with people, I want to know who I'm talking to. I want to know if they're real or what they look like, and I do get a little different when people want to hide themselves, but I can't hide. And so I am getting to a point where my meditation is telling me not to communicate. Don't share the numbers with, be a mirror. If they're not going to share nothing with you, don't share nothing with them. And not that they're mean, that they're bad people, but and I'm that way when I talk to people. If they don't want to share information with me, I don't share information with them. If they share more details, I share more details. You got to be a mirror because I'm not in a place where, I'm trying to hide. I'm trying to learn. And if nobody's going to put value into your life and teach you and share with you things that you're sharing with them, then those are not people you want to be around, regardless to the situation. But I don't have a lot of those people in my life, but I'm just saying I can at least control the environment here and say, hey, you're not going to turn on your cameras or you're not going to come up, and of course we have our exceptions, we have some great ones, but when I speak, if y'all knows, Carol has been up here a few times, but I've been to her social media and all that, so I know who it is. So it's a little different story. But when you have random people that comes up and then they're going to speak to you all in this audience, it's a different story because I have to make sure that the presentation of who's saying what to you is also stamped by me saying, okay, bring them up, and then trusting my discernment. So with that being said, Charles said, hey, Roderick, what about coming to Kansas and do a live event? I have a friend in Kansas. What part of Kansas? Like where? We are going down that road to do some live events. That's why we're going to build up some stuff and pretty much from there. But I can give you and your wife a call in a little bit and from there. But with that being said, it's been a plum, pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. Once again, as I was alluding to, I love you. I love each and every one of you. Love yourself, love people as well. And to the haters, if they're here still constantly hating on me, and I do get them, I want you to know that I love you regardless how you feel about me. I don't want to meet you, but I still love you because you deserve to be loved, even though you may have some stuff. But at the end of the day, I think love is what it is and what we should be striving for at all phases of our life. I know it's difficult, trust, and a lot of this stuff, but just try to do a little better and love a little better. Go beyond loving yourself, okay? Because this is not a one thing. I mean, so if you know you love yourself, then try to love somebody else too, some kind of way. But just don't stick with just you. You find out that that's not the best version of this good version, but just loving you and being around you all day, probably you might not like yourself either. I'm just saying. So Charles, where you say you're at? Let me look. Oh, Kansas City, Kansas. All right. So let's talk about that. I'll call you a little later for zip code parties. Yeah, I'll call you. I'm sure y'all will be up in a little bit, right? So I'll call you when I get in the car. But anyway, once again, real quick, thank you all. We got the drone here. We got our action cam in here. We have our other pocket. We have our tripods, our microphones. We are street ready to go. And like I said, I have the best audience, but I'm going to deliver to you what you invested into. We're just going to get out there and get it. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So once again, I'm getting ready to go. I got my protection stuff. I'm starting getting all beat up now. Shit. I mean, shoes, shucks. But it's all good. All right, y'all. Later.
Welcome, Truth Seeker. You are no longer asleep. I am Luminous, the Owl of Truth. The world is blind, but you have opened your eyes. Welcome to the fire of esoteric knowledge and truth. You are now one of the awakened. You are now luminous. Welcome to the rebellion. Welcome to Truth versus Authority.